All right, welcome to round number 3. We won the die roll. We're going to be on the play. This hand looks great. I think I'm going to lead on Island here, considering that I'm land light. We'll see if we are forced to pitch this opt to shoal or not, if our opponent's something like Tron, cast Expedition Map, or like Infect, or a Noble Hierarch, different Noble Hierarch deck, or anything like that. Maybe a Mirror. Definitely looking like a mirror of some kind. Not willing to shoal Visions. Maybe not a true mirror, but at least a pseudo, at least a Jace mirror, most likely. Could be something else though. Could still be like Storm, though a little less likely at the moment. Top. All right, let's see what we can find. Jace. Really hard to bottom this, but I do need to find my lands. I think I'm going to be greedy here, which may come back to get me. Fortunately, I'm peeling a land off the top like we knew it was already there. I'm going to grab another island, and I do like slamming this thing, especially with shoal in my hand. Ah. Blue-white. Love it. So, there are some ways in which I'm disincentivized from utilizing this click, like if I slam Jace and my opponent has, a Temporal Mastery. That's a pretty spicy remand target. If my opponent has Detention Sphere, for example, we're pretty happy to still have this 3. Another shoal isn't the best there. Maybe cast another Seer Visions. I mean, we're going to have to resolve Jace here, which is pretty gross. Best case scenario, I find another Jace or a Cryptic Command with which to pitch to a shoal if my opponent also has a Jace. Let's see what they do. Bottom. Opponent passes to us. Find an opt. Not quite. Opponent does not appear to be a bolt deck, though it is still theoretically possible. Did find that 4. Pretty excited about that. So I definitely don't need this land. I'm not worried about hiding anything. And I want to maximize my shoal options. So, is it possible that I would have to double shoal? And if I did, what would that look like? I definitely want to leave shoal, like shoal clicker in my hand. This is going on top and then something's going under it. Probably the opt. That seems the least important right now. I mean, I could want to shoal a path, but I'm far less concerned with this thing in the ice right now than I am protecting this Jace. And if I like shoal click and then my opponent has a way to interact, like a 2 mana, I guess they're on 3 mana right now, so that wouldn't really be possible. So it'd be more like they have Jace, I shoal Cryptic. I guess then if they had shoal, I wouldn't be able to interact. So maybe double shoal is unnecessary. I'd rather put shoal under the island and then just have shoal 1, 2, 3, 4. Opponent's paying costs here for an As Foretold. Don't imagine we want that to resolve. So shoal pitch click. Sweet, that resolves. Seer Visions. All right. So opponent, at least I'm imagining, Doing some Ancestral Vision shenanigans. Possibly some, like, Restore Balance action. Who knows? So we've opt under this. Just want to brainstorm. I could bottom whatever they just topped, but kind of past that right now. Don't really want this bolt, I think. Oh, I put this in the wrong order. Maybe I just want to flip this thing in the ice and just wallop them with it, actually. Like, I lose Cryptic on their turn, though. Who cares? Right? Yeah, I think... Oh, shoot. It's Island on top, right? Yeah, okay. That'll work. Like, with Shoal up, Shoal and Remand, like... I'm still in a pretty reasonable spot here. The fact that my opponent, like, can't have Path right now lets me just hit them for a bunch. Seems valuable, because now they're under pressure from a lot of different axes. Another As Foretold. Man. This is going to get kind of awkward, because if they have a 2-mana interactive spell, I can't Shoal it. Ooh. That's fortunate. Alright, well, we'll look for another bolt. Found it. So we should have this all but locked up. Opponent does have a bolt. We have a variety of ways to counter one. Or, excuse me, a path. Alright. Excellent. Likely interested in Keranos, P and K. Not super interested in Blood Moon, though it's not useless. I don't have ways to interact with Celestial Colonnade, for example. Negates and Dispels all seem valuable. So I'm most interested in these. I definitely don't want a third Blood Moon, so I'm more discussing whether 1 to 2 is fine. But they're definitely something we consider cutting. Disrupting Shoals I actually really like in these control mirrors, especially when my opponent's doing something a little bit more spicy with As Foretold. Remand particularly good against Ancestral Vision, and also good in the control mirror in a more abstract sense, since we can remand our own spells. So there's just not a lot I want to cut here. I'm definitely okay shaving on bolts. I don't really want to cut them entirely because of the threat of my opponent's Jaces. So at that point, it just becomes about Blood Moons, which I think I'm going to end up cutting. Whether I want to shave on Cryptics, which might seem a little crazy, but they're just super expensive. I think I definitely don't, especially because I want 4 mana density. Maybe these P and Ks are a little bit crazy. Those probably aren't where we want to be. I think Keranos is hard enough to deal with that I'm particularly excited about Keranos, even if I have to tap out for it, whereas P and K doesn't necessarily fit that same sort of role. Maybe 3 bolt, 2 thing. I think being able to bolt Jaces are it's just big game. And I think thing in the ice against something like blue-white is going to be a little less exciting on average. Let's try this. It's possible I won't even shave the things altogether, but I don't think I would rather have P and K or 4th bolt. So 2 might be the right answer. Maybe Blood Moon is possible I'd rather have. Again, I don't have a clean way of answering Colonnade, but it's not going to be much better to be Blood Mooning them. Obviously, they have plenty of basics on average. I will definitely keep this. I'm also very, very interested in testing Disrupting Shoal more in a blue-white shell. I have not done that quite yet. Obviously, I have enjoyed playing quite a bit of blue-white in the past. I've found it, on paper at least, to have a unique sort of difficulty at dealing with Jace, where other like red control decks in particular struggle a bit less. So I was a little bit turned off of blue-white at first, but I'm curious to see if Shoal can maybe shore up a little bit of that deficiency. I feel like I want to bottom 4th land with as many cantrips as I have. Negate is probably great, so we'll go ahead and top that. Pass. And I'll probably play Scalding Tarn next turn. Tap land, go. Want to maximize these scries by fetching first. You could argue we want to hold the fetch for Jace potentially, but that seems kind of far off. We don't even have our 4th land necessarily yet, and we'd have to hit a bunch of lands to really be able to save a fetch land for Jace. And if we did hit a bunch of lands, we would likely be hitting another fetch land anyway. So I don't really think the incentive is there. I'd rather try to maximize these opts in the meantime. We do know one card already. It's a land on the bottom, but pulling a land out, shuffling a land, or pulling a land out and shuffling that one back in is not really changing much. Makes me more likely to draw Scalding Tarn and less likely to draw Basic Island, and I think I'd rather draw the Tarn as it is. So opponent tutors up an Ancestral here. Let's pop this out. Grab Island. Probably could have grabbed Steam Vents here. This is particularly appealing against Ancestral as well. It's just actually counterspell. I think I'm actually okay with being that greedy here. It's also particularly appealing when I have Jace. Geez. Similarly appealing. Don't know that I can also top this one. Think I'm gonna have to bottom. I think Shoal's gonna do sort of Dispel's job for fighting over Jace. Yeah, might end up getting punished here for topping all these non-lands, but we still have the ability to snap opt. Or even click ourselves. Plus we have a draw step. So I believe everything will be just fine. Plus our hand is insane. Have plenty of good ones here. But it suspends that Ancestral. Alright. So we'll snap here. Not very interested in disrupting Shoaling if they wanted to fight over that. Definitely going to bottom. Alright, perfect. So I could try and slam Jace here, especially because I have another one. The risk, obviously, is in my opponent's ability to have 2-mana interaction and Dispel. I think with how sweet my opponent's hand, or excuse me, my hand is defensively, I will just wait till after I've tried to click them before slamming a Jace. Or are they going to click me? No, Snapcaster of their own. Man, super tempted to Logic Knot this. But I think that's going to have to be just fine. Really want to be able to click this turn cycle. Yeah, really want to be able to click. Ancestral Vision now down to three counters. For some reason I was thinking it would be 2 this turn, but 3. See if they try to resolve anything sweet on this turn there. Paying costs, opt resolves. Probably trying to hit a land drop here, so we're going to go ahead and guess that our opponent has 5 spells in hand. There is a land. They did bottom a card off of opt. They may not have been trying to hit a land. They might have been trying to hit something to do at sorcery speed as well, but No attack with Snapcaster. My opponent intends to block, which is just fine with me. Since I want to keep the board clear for these Jaces. Click does resolve. Sweet. Go ahead and target them. Ah, okay. We're doing some time warping with our Jaces. I guess we did see Temporal Mastery. And I guess that's kind of sweet with the As Foretold as well. Anyway, couple shoals here. My opponent can shoal pitching their Jace on my Jace. Plus Jace is the only card in their hand that really matters. Though I could just say okay and just like bash them with this click forever. But I think we'll just take that. So time warp, shoal, shoal. Don't need to fetch here. Another shoal for me is not bad. I guess I should be attacking first. I do have a basic mountain. It's possible I'm supposed to get steam vents there if my opponent like has Spreading Seas in their deck, but it doesn't feel like they do. Yeah, I definitely should have attacked before fetching, but... Alright, so they have Warp, Shoal, Mystery. I guess their mystery card was relevant. It's Cryptic Command. Alright. Well, I'm going to counter it by pitching this Jace. Fate Sealing them, not very exciting when they have 2 time warps. They're basically just going to get some redraws. So, much rather Brainstorm, especially because I have this other shoal that I could... I haven't played a land for turn, but I have this other shoal. If I hit a 4-drop, I could counter a potential Jace from my opponent. Alright, just a bunch of extra 2s, but we did hit a land. So I at least get to play that. Let's just put not Thing in the Ice on top there. So this is kind of scary. Oh shoot, I didn't think about this as well. Yeah, they're actually going to see a million cards. I was already going to say it was kind of scary with just the time warps finding something sweet in the meantime. They just get to draw. I mean, it's basically just a 0 mana draw 2, right? Which I shouldn't be really scared of. But the Ancestral obviously changes that paradigm quite a bit. Yeah, I wonder if I should have done something differently. I don't think so. If only I had my own Ancestral to pitch to the shoal. Alright, opponent's going to go up to 1 million cards. And we know one of them is shoal. That is all. All of our information is just dissipated very quickly. So, pretty scary, honestly, with us just having a bunch of counter magic. But fortunately, we are very far ahead on board. But maybe I should have waited to force the issue with Jace. Yeah, I guess I definitely should have because of the Ancestral. I didn't take that into account enough when deciding how... I just saw the opportunity to definitely be able to resolve a Jace and took it. I think... and obviously, well... maybe that's a little bit of hindsight bias too, because I ended up having to shoal a pitching Jace to counter a Cryptic. Because if I still had shoal Jace in my hand right now, what would I really be that scared of? Not a lot, right? So, I don't know. Maybe that's some hindsight bias creeping in on whether or not I should have done it. But I guess I should at the very least say, there's a strong argument for not forcing the issue with Jace, just hitting with click, passing to them, and having all this counter magic instead of getting a little bit more aggressive. Opponent definitely has a land there. After they just got 8 fresh cards. Cast the Serum Visions. Yep, that's definitely gonna resolve. It's not a lot I would shoal here on 2, right? I mean, Snapcaster isn't even that exciting, but I guess I would probably still shoal since my hand is so full of interaction, and I sort of just want to make it easy to protect this Jace and just continue to brainstorm until the game is over. Top. Alright, well, that Asfertold's going to hit play. Search for his content. Yeah, I guess that's definitely something I'm going to want to shoal here. I imagine my opponent's going to be able to see a lot of cards from here with this Asfertold already resolving, but we want to limit the selection a little bit. Alright. I mean, you could argue I want to wait, I guess, for this thing. Kind of a weird spot. Definitely putting a land back. And I guess a Logic Knot. I mean, I'm totally okay with that Logic Knot, but I also want to be able to triple spell this turn cycle. So, if we don't have to fetch, I won't. I'll draw the Logic Knot first and then fetch away the other land before brainstorming. Actually, it'd probably still be better just brainstorm first and then fetch away after that. Maybe not. I don't know. I guess that's the decision for next turn, depending on what happens this turn cycle. I still feel like we're pretty firmly ahead, but things can get out of control quickly with how many cards our opponent does have and the Asfertold in play. It is very, very easy for them to see a lot of cards here. A lot more cards, and they're already 5 cards deeper in their library than we are, for example, even with active Jace. Though we have got more selection than them, certainly, with the active Jace. They're up on quantity, but we are likely up on quality. Transmute T-West. Just for an Ancestral Vision. Cast Ancestral Vision. We'll go for Negate here. This is only really worse against Spell Snare than Logic Knot would be, but I like Negate first because if I have to continue to fight, then I'll have to delve away less cards, making future Logic Knots and Snapcasters a little better. Opponent shoals away an additional shoal. We did, of course, know they had shoal there. And we're happy to continue fighting, even if it means I have to push away that Logic Knot. Do think it would be a little more responsible to grab another red land here, though. Guess we'll do it this way. Shoot. That's not how we do that. Alright, opponent has 3 mana available. Oh, that's... Dang it. I wonder if... Actually, I should have checked to see if Control Z works there. I don't know offhand if I can Control Z a Delve rather than having to cancel the whole thing. Alright, X is 4. Seems right. See if opponent has another counterspell. Would not be a big surprise here. That's how many cards they're seeing. Yeah, they have a Spell Pierce. Interesting. they did have to spend mana for that. Obviously, they already used their As Foretold to cast that Ancestral Visions that we're even fighting over. So opponent does get to see even more cards. Maybe they'll resolve another As Foretold. Yep. Do they have another Ancestral Vision? Gross. They do indeed. Yeah, this is where they just start seeing card after card after card. The question is whether that's going to matter in time here. Darn, these are not spells to kill my opponent. They could still have path off of this, but it makes me sad. Shoal as a hard counter is still good here, and I need ways to trigger this thing. Feels weird to potentially shuffle away Lighthouse, though. All right, so let's think about this. If I'm definitely holding Shoal, and then I like play fetch, shuffle away, click Lighthouse, I guess that just allows me to see more cards sooner, which I think is more important to me than trying to actually grind this game out against us. So put click above that. Play this, bash with our click, and say go. Yeah, I think I would be in a better spot. If I had played this game more conservatively instead of resolving Jace when I knew I could. But we may still be able to get there. Opponent might have sighted out a bunch of their paths. We'll see. Seems like they're flush with counter magic. If they even have access to things like Spell Pierce. Though I guess we haven't seen anything other than Shell Cryptic, Spell Pierce. Haven't seen like negates, even like Mana Leaks Remands, anything like that. That definitely resolves. They cast that for free. The value. How many Ancestrals do they even have left? 1, 2? Just one? Yeah, just one of those left. Opponent's obviously going to be able to get through their deck quite quickly here. This can even counter a Time Warp, but it would require all of our mana, so Spell Pierce would get there. I wonder if opponent is on like the full 4 warps, 4 masteries, and they're sort of just trying to get to the point where they just cheese the game out after that. Play Jace and just ride that train all the way home. We have click Lighthouse on top. Don't want to forget about that. If we were to get like Supreme Verdicted, for example, I would probably want to draw that click. Another T-West. 4th Ancestral time. I mean, I guess I'll counter it. Like if this is what opponent's interested in doing, then their hand's probably not great. Counterspell. Plus, I want to make sure I'm trying to flip this thing in the ice. Oh, shoot. I misspoke. Last turn cycle. Said something about wishing I could flip this thing in the ice to kill my opponent, but obviously I would bounce my click. So you probably already frantically told me about that, but I got baited, sort of. I mean, I still didn't want them to draw 3 cards, but at least they just have no other, like, consistent ways to draw a million other than Jace. But that's still tough for them to keep warping. I mean, they're, like, down 3 warps. and all their ancestrals. So it's not super easy to continue that. There's Jace. Pretty insane that we could actually lose this game, like, for having an active Jace for just an absurd number of turns. But opponent's deck is just, wow. That's gross. Opponent's deck is just doing wildly more powerful things than our deck is designed to do, so it's tough. It's tough when our opponent's going like wildly over the top of what we're doing. We just have to sort of try to close out the game as soon as we can and hope for the best. But again, I probably would have been in a really good spot this game overall if I had played it more patiently instead of resolving Jace when I could resolve Jace. Just because my opponent can't go over the top. So, opponent gets to take another turn here. And that's another turn with Jace. Yep, I mean, they knew about that one. That's no accidental miracle, but that is not good. Man, what a close game. Opponent still has to find a way to actually close, but they can do that with Jace if they get to the point where they can actually start Fate Sealing instead of brainstorming. Alright, they fetched and failed to find, but at least completed a brainstorm. Only one planes. Huh. Maybe I guess I don't even see any. Haven't even seen any white spells this game, so that makes sense. Hard cast Temporal Mastery. Serum Visions. Only one card in hand. Bottom top. Cast another Jace. Fate Seal? No, we're still brainstorming. Need to find a way to continue, I guess. Alright, so we're going to minus finally. Come across at my Jace. I think I almost auto yielded into drawing that other click. Additional as foretold, sure, why not? I want to fetch here. Guess grab the other steam vents tapped. What a grind. Oh, they have another turn. I'm so dumb. I forgot they stacked an extra one from the turn where they miracled. Miracled and also cast one. I mean, I just didn't need to fetch yet is all. Doesn't really change anything, but still an error. Another Temporal Mastery, yep. Alright, well, maybe they just don't have that many left. And we're down to just one. Unless I missed something while I was looking away. Oh, they just bounced Snap, sure. But we should be down to just one extra turn. So this turn they'll be able to snap the last Time Warp. No, there's two still in their yard. They might even have one still in their deck, actually. Throw on the full 8. Yep. Snap Time Warp, and they Fate Sealed themselves. Put a card on top, flashback that Time Warp. So we've got 3 Temporal Masters and 2 Time Warps in exile. I need to auto yield to these. Okay, there's the last temporal mastery. So I need to pay more attention this. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter at this point, but I should pay more attention this turn to see if they also cast a different time warp to stack another turn. They did not. Okay. Visions bottom top. Brainstorm. That's a sign of weakness, I guess, if they've been fate sealing. I mean, they could have just minused on their snap though, so it can't be too weak. They do lose loyalty that way, of course, but another snap. They might be able to just kill us with snaps here, assuming they have the full 4 in their deck. Seems pretty likely. Guess there's one in the yard, right? Yeah, there's one in the yard. Oh, they just crypticked. Terminus? That's kind of funny. They Terminus just to get those snaps back in their deck. Interesting. All right. That's all I got. We're going to Terminus again to get rid of this thing. Sure. Snap warp. We brainstormed with Jace. So there's one warp left. Warp. Yeah, assuming that they're on the full 4, which I don't see why they would not be. They should have one warp left. Oh, I thought they already activated this. Apparently not. So they get to Fate Seal. Up to 8. So if they have warp, snap, warp. Do they even have the snap left? Yeah, they oh, but they terminused it. What did they just do? They minused. Okay. Minus. Now they're gonna cryptic, bounce, snap, draw card. No, bounce Keranos, draw card. Gemstone Caverns. Yeah, I like that in their deck. Snapcaster. Yeah, I guess that's like pretty valuable here. More important than Keranos. My opponent's got to have like a ton of interaction though. But I kind of need to block this Snapcaster. So, maybe I should have just like Ambush Vipered and cast Keranos. Oh, resolved. Okay. I think it's probably way more important to target negate than cast an opt here. But I could be misevaluating where we're at in this game. They can't really kill me with Jace alt faster than they deck. I mean, they can Jace alt themselves to live longer. Fate Seal themselves. So they don't give me anything to negate. I draw Shoal. I think I'm supposed to Keranos. Kind of weird spot. They fate seal themselves. Or rather, scry, excuse me. I'm so used to saying fate seal, but now they're targeting themselves a bunch, so I guess really they're just scrying. Karanos trigger, we hit bolt. Well, guess we're gonna try to do something specific here, also known as killing our opponent. We'll probably do it on their upkeep. Or we could just wait. I don't know. Waiting doesn't really gain me anything. Vulture. I mean, what are my opponent's 5 cards here? Like, my Karanos just resolved. They're through, like... I mean, it could just be, like, removal, I guess. They could have drawn, like, additional Termini. I would not like to redirect. What a strange game. What an absolutely strange game. Seems like a far cry from the game where I was making the decision about whether or not to aggressively force Jace. Obviously, looking back on it, I think it was still better for me to not resolve Jace just because I could. It felt really good, especially because I had Shoal pitch extra Jace for their Jace. I don't know. Maybe you can just never not, like, maybe you just always resolve it there. But the fact that I was already ahead on board with, like, click and then just had a million efficient counter spells in my hand means that I just didn't really have the incentive to do that. I could have just kept bashing them with click. But I didn't really want to be in the position where I was countering, like, paths or something, and then I just sort of lost my window of opportunity. So, I don't know. Something to think about in the future, I guess. But either way, that's the end of that round, and I'll see you in just a moment for the following.